'63 they did He Who Gets Slapped. I did see that. Summer, or the fall of '63, they did Cyrano de Bergerac, and I was teaching at Southgate High School that fall. And The Master Builder was in January of '64. I came in to see that. Upward Home and Angel in May of '64. I came in to see that. I was in Detroit at that time. Wilderness, May of '66. I was teaching at Chadsey High School in Detroit at that time. Here's a program for the '66-'67 season, which I happen to have. I put it in there. House of Bernarda Alba, January '69. George Bird did that. I saw it. Italian Straw Hat March of '69. I saw that. Mother Courage, which was the date, when was it? '69, '70. I don't see the date. I tried, when I did shows, always to put the year on the program somewhere, because historically you can't date it sometimes. And that show was a very interesting show. I don't know, Dr. Gussif directed it. And they, on Saturday, you know, they had two performances at 7 and 10 o'clock. And when you came in to see the show, the cast was seated on the stage already.
Wow.
You know, cross-legged. Whenever they opened the house, they were already there, and it was a long show. I mean, I think they would have probably had time to leave the stage, maybe go to the restroom, take a drink of water, and then go back out and sit for the second performance. But the second performance probably wasn't over till 1 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
Because it was 9:45 when we got done with the first one. Right, then The Visit. George Bird did that February '71. And it was well done. That's a show I wouldn't mind having be in sometime. In May of '71, they did The Tempest. Now, that's the last one I saw until I came to see George Bird's final production in 2007, which was A Streaker Named Desire. And it was in '71 that I left Michigan and I went to Missouri to work on a doctorate. And I did a lot of shows there. And here's the March 2009 Communication Media Theater Arts, sort of celebrating the 50 year.
Yes.
And I wrote the article for it. And by the way, I discovered that article is under my name under Google. If you Google my name, that was one of the things that's there.
That's great. And do you have a favorite memory of your time at Quirk?
I think the entire 4 years was wonderful. I mean, I was a pretty shy person. I did some theater work before I came here, but what I was doing was really appreciated, and that means a lot to an individual, and it does wondrous things for your own self-confidence. And so while I was never the president of the EMU Players or the Alpha Psi, I was vice president of both. And of course I also worked was one of the founding members of the WEMU Broadcasting Guild, which predated the station. I mean, I had an interest in broadcasting. In fact, I think I said I originally wanted to major in broadcasting. And so, and we had a studio. Unfortunately, that's all we had. We had no way of doing anything other than taping. And so we started pretty much from scratch. The first series we did was called Montage. probably not the right name for it, but it was faculty centered. They interviewed faculty members. And we have various members of the guild do the interviewing. I did interview 2 of the people. I didn't want to. It was like they were married. They had spent a year in Cambodia, and so we were going to have a program for each of them. And I had someone assigned to interview them, and they were coming in for a pre-discussion. So you have some idea, because it's going to be taped, and the interviewer didn't show up. So I had to do it. I thought, well, now I have to do the interview. I did do the intros and outros of all of the programs, and this series was broadcast once a week on WHRV, and then later on, about a year later, they did it, all of them in 1 week, or 2 weeks, repeated it. We ultimately got a telephone line into the studio, so that allowed us to do a live program, and we had a weekly 30-minute program that was variety. I mean, the campus news, you take the Eastern Echo and edit it somewhat because it's not written for broadcast. Right. And someone would read the news, and different people would be the announcer or the interviewer. I recall interviewing Bill Work and 2 cast members of Oklahoma. And that's 3 people. You're interviewing 3 people. Well, you learn how to interview when you do 3 people. You've got to identify the people because the audience listening doesn't know who's speaking. So you have to address them by name. Now, there was only 1 female, so you didn't have to say her name every time, but the 2 men you did, because who is it? Right. And sometimes you directed it, sometimes you did other things on it, but we did it once a week. There were a few times I was the publicist for the organization the entire time. The goal was, I mean, looking back today, you'd say, well, gee, that wasn't much to do. Well, we just had a handful of people, and we did what we could, and we kept doing more. And the hope was that we had a student organization functioning, that when the time came for a station to exist, you had a student group who could step in, and they weren't starting from square one, they had already started. Now, I don't know when the station started exactly, but all right, now